What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Isaac, and today I want to talk about a Netflix original anime that came out in 2018, I believe, called Devilman Crybaby. I've always really liked the anime art style, but I've never actually watched anime myself. I don't know, for me, watching a show takes a lot of dedication, because I know I won't get the full experience if I don't watch the whole thing, so I very rarely venture out to watch shows, so I've never really watched any anime. And I went on my Instagram and asked what people's favorite anime were, because I kind of wanted to see, if one would catch my attention. And somebody suggested that I watch Devilman Crybaby. And I did. I've seen it 2 times now, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I kind of just want to talk about why I enjoyed it so much. And just so you guys know in advance, if you are here for a spoiler-free review, I would recommend you step away from this video. I'm going to be spoiling many things that will make the whole show not worth really watching. I mean, you'll still get an experience out of it, but it's obviously better to not know what's going to happen next. So if you've already seen it and you are okay with me talking about what's happened, then welcome here. But if you do not want any spoilers, then I would suggest clicking off. So first of all, I just want to briefly talk about the animation and the art style. As I said earlier, I've always really liked the way the anime looks, and this is far from an exception. I really like a lot of the character designs. Obviously, in this world, there are so many different creatures, all following under the category of demons/devils. And there's a lot of really creative ones. There's a lot of really interesting looking ones. There's a lot of really cool designs in this. And also just the animated action scenes I specifically really liked. This is a very gory show, a very bloody and gory show. And I feel like that the gore in this looks cartoony enough to not be too disturbing, but not too cartoony to feel less genuine. Also, all the psychedelic and trippy scenes that you see during the Sabbath party, etc., it's all really trippy and confusing and weird, and I actually really like it for that very reason. I just think it looks really cool, I find it really interesting, and I think they did a really good job at executing that. And again, the action scenes are all very good. I can't really think of a moment where the sound design or animation didn't feel absolutely perfect to portray that kind of scene. And what also added to the experience for me was the music. The music was shockingly good. I especially noticed it on my second time watching. The music is really good. There's some scenes that are very sad, and the music really dramatizes that. And then during a lot of the more devastating scenes, towards the end, there's this really intense, almost angelic sounding music, and the strings are just so loud, but it feels both really frightening and also just really sad. And I don't know, I really enjoyed the music throughout this whole series. Well, it's only one season, but throughout the whole thing, I thought the music was really good, and I thought it really elevated every single scene to force you to feel the emotion that you were meant to feel. And adding to the way that things sounded, I want to talk about the voice acting. I watched the English version, so I can't really talk about the original Japanese one, but a lot of people say that English dubs end up bad, and I would be shocked if anybody said that referring to this one, because I was blown away by the voice acting in a lot of the scenes. The one that really stood out to me was the one where Miki's dad goes looking for his wife and son, and finds that his son has turned into a demon, is attacking his wife, and he has to make a decision right then and there, and he is literally unable to. That scene where he breaks down and has to fight himself to make a decision was unbelievably convincing. That I would say, out of all the freakish stuff that happened in this show, that part made me the most sad and the most uncomfortable, because the voice acting, I don't even know who did that, but whoever did it so perfectly. It felt so genuine. It was so goddamn convincing that it just broke my heart watching. I also really like Rio's very calm tone throughout it. I think that connecting him to the demon by showing his lack of emotion was done very well through the way that he spoke. He was never super expressive. He never really had even facial expressions, but his voice was always very monotone, not very expressive. And at no point did I ever question why that was, because I kind of just figured that was his character. He has to take things seriously. And then by the end, you figure out all this weird shit about him. And that kind of, I think that paints the picture of him being a devil, demon, Satan, and therefore he does not have emotions like a human does. And that was very well shown through his character's voice. I also thought that, just generally speaking, the voice acting was very good. The main character, Akira, I thought there was many times where the voice acting was very good, because throughout the show, he gets put through a pretty good amount, and there's many times where he breaks down crying. There's many times where it's clear he's feeling a lot of frustration, a lot of anxiety, and a lot of the lines that were delivered I thought felt very genuine, and I really enjoyed the character's delivery a lot of the time. And that's where that's where I think it's time I should shift into talking about the actual story and characters, because they are also very, very good. The story was really confusing for me through from the first episode, because it shows you all of these things that do not make any sense to you in the moment, but then the way that it reveals all that stuff over time is really, really cool. For example, the very beginning, we see the very end, where God, eliminates all of the demons on Earth, and then Satan rises up from that. We see that at the very beginning, but we don't learn what that actually means till literally the last episode. And also, I gotta say, what I really didn't expect was for this show to be as, heart-crushing as it was, because throughout the beginning, what you're seeing is these two guys that have to get rid of all of these demons. It's a lot of gore, it's a lot of sexual themes, there's a lot of sex to it, a lot of sex. So the last thing that I was expecting was for the second half of the season to completely tear me apart. It is shockingly beautiful and shockingly brings up a lot of very interesting topics to be discussed, which I'm going to go into a minute. It's shockingly beautiful in many ways. I really like Akira's relationship with Rio, how it kind of shifts into a love-hate kind of thing, but at the end of the day, they grew up together, and it's very clear. I think, I don't know if the creators have ever said anything about this, but pretty much everybody that has talked about this show has said that there's a lot of queer symbolism between the two of them, and I would definitely agree with that. I think there's many times where it's definitely clear that the main thing that's keeping them together, especially on Rio's part, is some sort of loving relationship. Overall, this was very unique. I've never seen anything quite like this in book, show, or movie form. It would have been very easy to make this very cliche or very typical, guy gets powers, kills demons, the end. But no, the ending completely flips everything that you would expect to happen, with the second main character being technically the main antagonist, and with the way that it got not just the main characters involved, but literally the entire world, by Rio's plan to show the public that demons exist, and then the whole world goes into chaos, which realistically very well could happen. And there's, again, more symbolism to that I want to talk about in a second, but I thought it was just a really interesting concept of, as opposed to the main characters being affected by the just general problem, the whole world ends up getting involved, and that causes way more deaths than, again, just like the main characters. It's not just Akira's family dies, everybody dies. It's so much more than it had to be, but I think that's why it worked. Because what I think this show, there's a lot of symbolism and subjects in this show, of course, but the main one that I took away from this was it's about judging someone before you know them, which again has been done many times, but never like in this show. Because this show takes the most monstrous and ferocious looking creature possible, but you know that he's the good guy. You know that he has a heart. You know that he's empathetic. You know that he loves people. But he is the most ferocious looking monster ever. And on top of that, Rio, who looks like a normal guy, he looks just like anyone else, he is literally Satan. He is actually literally Satan. So the very ferocious, monstrous beast is a very loving person, and this regular-looking guy is the actual devil. And I think what this show does really well is that it demonstrates the absolute worst that could happen. I think that's why I said I think that getting the entire world fucked up was the right way to do things, because it illustrated the absolute worst that could happen. And that drives the message home way better than if you just had some sort of pity, dumb shit that would happen in, elementary school. Don't judge someone based on how they look. and this is the absolute worst that could happen if you do so, as opposed to, don't do that, because someone might get a little hurt. Nah, the world exploded pretty much. Everybody died. And yeah, I just think, obviously, again, that subject has been discussed many, many times throughout media, but I feel like this show did it in a pretty different way, in a very unique way, and still managed to make the show extremely entertaining to watch. And another thing that I do want to talk about, not too much, but I feel like I really want to talk about it because I think that the way they used Satan in this show was obscenely fascinating. Like, the idea that we had been following Satan this entire time was already interesting, but I also just want to talk about the design of Satan. Like, this is pretty much the exact opposite of what you would typically imagine Satan to look like, and they very well could have just made him look like that typical red guy with horns, but they didn't, and I actually love that this is the design. It may look a little weird, and it may be a little harder to take seriously, but I think this was a really smart design. First of all, this show connects into the actual religious beliefs that come with things like Satan, with references to the Bible and, other religious beliefs. And, it is a pretty well-known fact that what Satan is an angel that tried to overtake God and then failed and was descended to hell. If he was an angel, then he should look more angelic, although he is the evil angel now, why doesn't he look like what we usually typically imagine an angel to look like? And in this, it looks very much like it, and I think that actually makes a lot of sense. He is a very powerful angel that is gone evil. And also, the fact that this character is pretty much genderless is also, I think, very interesting. I'd say Satan is usually depicted as being a male, and technically Rio is a male character throughout this show, but I don't know, I think giving the character both male and female anatomy is also just a really interesting concept, because, like, Satan, whether you believe Satan is real or not, what the fuck is Satan? We don't know, so I think making him not really defined by an actual sex was a smart move. And of course, turning Rio into a much more feminine character by the end does also add to the queer symbolism, which is why I think that final transformation also contributed to that theory a lot. A lot of the times shows will have major flops. Like, if a show has a couple seasons, you'll probably be likely to find a couple episodes that you don't like. BoJack Horseman is probably my favorite show of all time. I love it so much, and I've rewatched it so many times. But there are episodes that I just genuinely don't like, primarily from season 1. There are episodes in that show that I really just don't like. And I think most people can say that about their favorite show as well. But, like, throughout all 10 episodes of this show, there was not a single time where I thought an episode was remotely not good. Every single episode, I think, is absolutely amazing, and I literally couldn't pick a favorite because they're all so good. I think the last 3, I would say, are the best, because that's just when things start to get more intense, and there's, like, again, the very angelic and intense music that I like, the much more complex action scenes, and the much more sad moments as well, which, again, was very impressive, depicted by the animation and voice acting, all that. I'd say the last 3 episodes were the best, and I would say the first one was my least favorite, but, it works well as a first episode, I think. It's just the pacing was a little bit weird, to be honest. I didn't notice this problem consistently throughout the show, but the first episode, 100% the pacing was weird. Like, there are so many scenes that go on way longer than I would expect it to, and it just starts to feel a little awkward. And there are definitely scenes that go way too fast to understand what's going on. I think that works sometimes, like when you have the psychedelic moments in the Sabbath party, but sometimes scenes just go by way too fast. Like, a lot has to happen in the first episode, but it just happened way too fast. But again, overall, I absolutely loved this show. I loved the characters. I loved that it didn't hold anything back. It was absolutely as mature as it needed to be. I loved the symbolism that it had. I loved the animation. I loved so much about this anime. And again, this was the very first anime that I ever watched from start to finish. So, very good first start, I guess. I do plan on watching some more because, I have a lot of free time, let's be honest. So I just thought about starting to watch some different stuff. But yeah, I really enjoyed this show. The fact that it's a Netflix original blows my mind. But then again, BoJack Horseman is also a Netflix original. So now I have 2 beloved shows on that list, I guess. Which is, again, quite surprising. But yeah, love this. If you haven't seen it, but watch this, weird move, but I would still recommend you watch it, because I haven't said literally everything. I've said a lot of the more important parts, but, Anyway, let me know what you guys thought of this down in the description below. If you agree with me, what you agree with me on, what you disagree with me on, what you thought of the show overall. And yeah, that's all. That's going to be all for me today. I just really wanted to talk about this show and sort of just talk about some of the things that I liked, and also the very small couple things that I didn't like. So yeah, that's going to be all from me. Thank you for watching. In the description, you can find my main channel, Instagram, that stuff. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.